What's up, my friend? Hello, sit down at the small council, for there is much plotting and scheming that must be done. That's right, this is part two of The Rise and Fall of the Targaryens, House of the Dragon lore documentary by Wizards and Warriors. So, as I said before, we're going to look at this video in different parts. And obviously, if this interests all of you, please type in the comment section below if you want to see more content like this, like, for example, maybe history of, your favorite science fiction or fantasy realm, or if you want to see more historical content. Let us know in the comment section below. What are your thoughts? Because I think it's important that we hear from you uh, if this is something that interests you. And plus, since we're talking about House of the Dragon, gotta get myself a little coffee. There you go. Let's go ahead and enjoy this second part. And again, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to, Chicago Reacts. Hit that ring bell notification. That way you do know when we upload new content onto our YouTube channel. And be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wizards and Warriors. So follow your friend Kit Kat as we continue the history, the rise, and fall of the Targaryens House of the Dragon lore documentary. So, since I'm in charge of the ones and twos, sit back. You can sit back, relax, and let's enjoy this video.
After bringing 6 out of the 7 kingdoms of Westeros under his rule, King Aegon I Targaryen enjoyed a 4-decade-long reign over the massive realm which he and his sister wives had won by the right of Dragonfire.
4 decades. That's actually, that's pretty impressive right there. 4 decades? Controlling a continent that size? At least, according to, at least George R. Martin and a few other people, they said that Westeros being a continent was almost the size of South America or something of that nature. That's an incredible empire and kingdom to maintain, especially in antiquity. But I guess the one thing he had in his advantage, in his hip back pocket, was giant fire-breathing dragons.
The Seminole Conquerors regime was a relatively prosperous one. Aegon Fort, the wooden palisade built upon the site of the Targaryens' first landing, was torn down and replaced with a structure more befitting of a king, the Red Keep. Over time, a vibrant and prosperous city grew around this seat of royal power, known fittingly as King's Landing. Targaryen rule was now more or less uncontested from Old Town to Castle Black. However, while large swaths of Westeros prospered peacefully under their rule, the reign of the House of the Dragon would remain defined by its house words, fire and blood. In 4 AC, Aegon continued where he had left off, seeking to bring Dawn, the last independent kingdom of Westeros, under his rule. However, where the great lords of the other 6 kingdoms had marched to meet the Conqueror's dragons on the open field, and been drowned in hellfire as a result, the children of Rhoynar refused to engage the winged weapons of mass destruction on the Targaryens' terms.
See, now that's a smart tactic right there. All the other kings, save for Stark, while he did march his army out there, I think after hearing what happened to the 4 other kings, he saw the battlefield, and even though his council was telling him, like, hey, we can do this, and his brother, who served in the Night's Watch, even agreed that, hey, look, I can go in there, possibly kill the dragons. He was like, no, the risk is too high. I'll bend the knee. Which, again, he made the smart decision. He saved the North. He saved his kingdom. And yes, he's forever known as the king who knelt. He saved their lives, and he saved his kingdom. Now, the people of Dorne, while they were engaging in combat, did not meet the dragons on their own terms. I mean, that's a smart thing to do. And, as someone who owns 5 of the books, as well as the illustrated history of Game of Thrones, or the Song of Ice and Fire, it's quite clear that the people of Dorne were able to use their terrain to help them out. I think what they at least how George writes it in the books, a lot of these keeps and these forts actually have like a lot of shelters or underground like underground caves, and I guess that's the way some of the people hid from the dragons as they were burning the cities and the castles. So, again, good smart thing on the Dorns. I mean, on the Dornish people, they knew better than to just march out and meet the dragons in open field, because that's something I wouldn't do. See, now that's a group of people like, all right, guys, these dragons are coming for us. Let's be smart. Let's use our big brains and not fight them on their terms.
Hiding amidst arid hills and desert sands, the Dornish fought like snakes in the grass, stubbornly refusing to submit, even as their cities, towns, and castles were burned from on high. Then, remarkably, in 10 AC, a Dornish scorpion ballista managed to pierce the eye of Meraxes, sending the massive she-dragon and her rider, sister Queen Rhaenys Targaryen, plunging to their deaths. It was the first time a dragon had been killed in battle.
See, I knew that was happening, but just seeing it illustrated, just it hurts. Because I think the dragons are so cool. I think they're so awesome. No, I would not want to meet one, but I just think that the whole thing, seeing a dragon die, that hurt. That hurt.
On Westerosi shores. 4 years later, a defeated Aegon withdrew his troops from Dorne, leaving the conquest of that stubborn kingdom as a task for his descendants. Aegon the Conqueror died in 37 AC, succeeded by his eldest son, Aenys I Targaryen. Immediately, the young king faced no less than 5 rebellions, the worst of which being perpetrated by the militant branches of the Faith of the Seven, who considered the Targaryens' habit of marrying brother to sister an intolerable sin. These rebellions were eventually crushed, although at the cost of the lives of King Aenys and his heir. In 48 AC, the throne passed to King Jaehaerys I Targaryen.
Okay, I know about Jaehaerys, but where's Maegor the Cruel in his reign? Are they going to skip over that? Because I think that's kind of important to have in there, just to kind of define who Maegor is. Maegor the Cruel? That crazy SOB? We're seriously not going to talk about him? I hope I'm just... Wait, maybe I paused too soon.
Who ruled for a marathon 55 years, during which time he made peace with the church, and more or less stabilized the Targaryens' hold over all Westeros sans Dorne. However, as is the nature of the world of ice and fire, stability never lasts long, and soon the mighty House Targaryen would find itself embroiled in a savage interdynastic war of succession, which would ultimately begin the long decline of their regime, the Dance of the Dragons. At the centennial of Targaryen...
Okay, I know that the recent show House of the Dragon is about the war between the Blacks and the Greens. And I understand the video, they only could cover so much, but I mean, looking over Maegor's rule and even Jaehaerys' rule, because a lot happened under his administration. I mean, dare I say it, his term as king was like a golden era of peace and prosperity in the land. And while there was conflict, I mean, there's a lot that he and his queen did, and maybe they'll work on another video. I hope they do, to talk about Jaehaerys' reign. I mean, I would like to see that so that people could see just how great Jaehaerys was as a ruler. Him and his queen were able to implement a lot of policies. Plus, his queen was able to really understand the need of the Night's Watch. She gave them like a lot of resources, and also really helped out the women who lived in the north, who were at risk of always being, if they got married, their lord would have the right for first night, which is, again, not cool at all, and Queen King Jaehaerys' wife, her name is is fleeting my mind at the moment, put a stop to that. And she was, again, as I said before, instrumental in helping out the Night's Watch, giving them more resources. And yeah, I would like to see a video on that. A little disappointed. That's my one criticism. Okay, just one. Glossing over Maegor's rule, and I guess turning a blind eye to Jaehaerys' rule as well. I mean, if they ever get a chance, I think I would like to see that. How do you feel? Type in the comment section below.
Targaryen rule, the Iron Throne was occupied by one Viserys I Targaryen, whose wife, the Queen, Aemma Arryn, had borne him no living sons. Despite this, King Viserys had one adult daughter, Princess Rhaenyra, who he named his heir in 105 AC. For her part, Rhaenyra was a clever and capable stateswoman who quickly embraced her role and began gathering support of many of the landed lords in her father's royal court. However, upon the death of Queen Arryn, King Viserys remarried, this time to one Alicent Hightower, with whom he had a son, Aegon. This created a quandary among the feudal lords of Westeros. Among the Andals and the First Men, the law of male primogeniture predominated, by which a lord's eldest son was always the legal inheritor of his father's lands. By that token, there arose an issue. According to Westerosi succession laws, Aegon, son of King Viserys by Queen Alicent, should be the rightful heir to the throne. However, despite it running against the custom of male primogeniture, the king had already named his eldest child, the female Princess Rhaenyra, to be his successor.
And what could possibly go wrong?
Over time, two factions began coalescing within the royal court, one made up of notable nobles who supported Prince Aegon's claim to the throne, and one made up of other nobles who supported Princess Rhaenyra. King Viserys, a pleasant, humble and amiable man, was unable or simply unwilling to deal with the deadly fissures forming within the Red Keep. In 111 AC, during a great tourney held in King's Landing, these factions were given names. As Aegon's mother Queen Alicent wore a gown of green to the affair, while Princess Rhaenyra wore black. Thus, supporters of Aegon became known as the Greens, and supporters of Rhaenyra the Blacks. On the third day of
Which side are you on, the Greens or the Blacks? Type it in the comment section below.
the third moon of 129 AC, a servant entered the royal chambers in the Red Keep, only to find that King Viserys, ancient and feeble, had died in his sleep. The humble chamberlain rushed to inform Queen Alicent of her husband's passing. Should the late king's wishes have been honoured, then Alicent should have sent a raven to Dragonstone Keep, the seat of Princess Rhaenyra, and informed her to come to King's Landing to take the Iron Throne as the king's chosen heir. However, the queen had other plans. Throwing the servant into the black cells to ensure word of Viserys' death would not spread to the public, she ordered a secret meeting of the small council, with the aim of persuading them to recognize her son, Aegon, as ruler in Rhaenyra's stead. The council was deeply torn. On one hand, Viserys had made his court swear fealty to Princess Rhaenyra as his heir 20 years ago, but on the other, Prince Aegon was male, and by law of primogeniture, males come before females. Eventually, Sir Criston Cole, Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, made a very convincing argument on Prince Aegon's behalf when he slit the throat of Lord Leman Beesbury, Master of Coin, and Rhaenyra's staunchest supporter within the council. None were more surprised by the small council's decision to crown Prince Aegon than Aegon himself, who at first was reluctant to take the crown, knowing it would be going against his late father's wishes. This humility was smacked out of him by his mother, who, probably correctly, convinced him that Rhaenyra was not wont to reward such loyalty and was more likely to simply slit the young prince's throat to remove him as a threat.
See, now that's the thing. Obviously, reading the history, reading the books, you know what happens in A Dance of the Dragons. But perhaps maybe if diplomacy or reason was put in, would Rhaenyra really kill Aegon? That's the question. And knowing the Targaryens, the flip of a coin, you don't know where they are mentally. Plus, again, a lot of these Targaryens are severely inbred. And I guess because this is a realm of fantasy, they don't have the problems. But if you look into history, do yourself a favor. No, seriously. After this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe right in the comment section below and hit that ring bell notification. After this video, look up how inbred some of the royal families were. And you'll see it from antiquity, from ancient Egypt to all these other ancient kingdoms to medieval era. I mean, you had these royal families, these dukes, these barons, these lords, these kings and queens and emperors and empresses marrying into each other, marrying into the family, and the offspring, they ain't right.
Thus, 7 days after the death of King Viserys, King Aegon Targaryen, second of his name, ascended unto the Iron Throne of Westeros. Days later, word of this reached Princess Rhaenyra in Dragonstone. Presently pregnant with her fourth child, the shock of her siblings' betrayal induced her to miscarry the baby.
Oh.
This tragedy, however, was not enough to deter Rhaenyra from claiming her inheritance. At Dragonstone, she gathered her loyal supporters and formed a new government, the Black Council. Thus, war was on. A war that would leave Westeros bathed in fire and ruin, as a brother and sister shed the blood of thousands over a dynastic spat, which in turn would see the power and prestige of House Targaryen take a fatal blow from which it would never recover. Indeed, before the imminent Dance of the Dragons, House Targaryen had 18 dragons to command. By the war's end, all but 2 would have been slain. While lords and notables from across Westeros's
Extinction, it's never a cool thing, you know? Never is. And after, seeing the story about dragons and how, again, frightening and yet majestic they are. Stuttered on that word. You can't help but feel sad in what happens to them. As a species, what a sight it would be to see a dragon. Like, obviously, you want to be at a very safe distance, of course, but 18 down to 2. How incredibly, incredibly sad. And after surviving the doom of Valyria as well, where all the dragons went extinct in the Valyrian Freehold, which we learned from the previous video.
Many noble houses would inevitably involve themselves in the war between King Aegon and Princess Rhaenyra. The Dance of the Dragons was, at heart, an interdynastic dispute. Thus, with both sides of the conflict led by various peoples named Targaryen, it is necessary to break down which Targaryens served on which side to belay the inevitable confusion. Among the chief supporters of King Aegon's faction, Aegon the Greens, was the young king's younger brother, Aemond Targaryen. Rider of the dragon Vagar, Aemond was possessed of a legendary temper. Having lost an eye in a grudge match with his cousin at the tender age of 10, he encrusted a sapphire into the empty socket where the eye had once been. King Aegon also had a second younger brother, Daeron, who was gentler and more charming than Aemond, but a dragon rider and a capable warrior all the same. On the other side, Princess Rhaenyra's Black Council included her 3 eldest sons, Jaehaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey Targaryen.
Now, according to some of the sources and book material that I have, they didn't have the Valyrian white hair. I wonder if do they talk about it in the show? I haven't seen House of the Dragon yet, so maybe, you know what? I will ask the audience, should I check it out again? Should I see House of the Dragon? Type in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Is it worth seeing? Because remember, Game of Thrones Season 8, it broke my heart. Let me know if House of the Dragon is worth it.
Each one a dragon rider. Present also was the 55-year-old Lady Rhaenys Targaryen, sister of the late King Viserys, rider of the massive worm Meleys, and wife to Corlys Velaryon, owner of the largest fleet in the realm. Finally, chief among Rhaenyra's supporters was her uncle and husband, Prince Daemon Targaryen, rider of the mighty dragon Caraxes, and widely considered to be the most dangerous man in Westeros. At the onset of the war, King Aegon had the loyalty of the majority of Westeros's great lords, and in comparison, Rhaenyra's support across the realm was very limited. However, the Black Princess had one major advantage. While Aegon's faction only had 4 dragons, hers had 11, albeit only 6 presently had riders.
Wait, hold on. They said 18, 11, 4. Am I missing something?
This gave Rhaenyra a potent advantage in firepower, but this alone would not carry her to victory. For while dragons can burn down a city, it took armies to conquer and hold it. To that end, Queen Rhaenyra opted to use diplomacy, sending out 2 of her sons to parley with the great feudal lords of Westeros to earn their support. In the Eyrie, White Harbour and Winterfell, Prince Jaehaerys found success, as the Arryns of the Vale pledged their loyalty to Rhaenyra, as did the Starks of Winterfell and their prosperous Manderley allies. However, when the Black Princess's middle child, Lucerys, arrived upon the lands of the Baratheons atop his dragon Arrax, he did not find himself so lucky. When granted an audience in Storm's End, he found the Lord Boros Baratheon, flanked by none other than Aemond Targaryen, standing stoically at the Stormlord's side. The Baratheons had already declared for King Aegon, and Lucerys was told to leave. His diplomatic mission a failure, the young princeling mounted himself atop Arrax and began the flight back to Dragonstone. He would never make it. As a storm raged over Shipbreaker Bay, another pair of bronze wings cut through the din. Aemond, riding atop his massive worm Vagar, had descended upon his prey. What followed was more a murder than a fight, for Vagar was a much bigger dragon than Arrax, and Aemond a much more skilled rider than Lucerys. 3 days later, the scaled body of Arrax and his young rider washed up on the beach outside Storm's End. Upon hearing of her
Always sad seeing a dragon. I don't know. For some reason, it hurts my heart. What a shame.
son's death, Princess Rhaenyra collapsed into a spiral of grief, and her will to continue the fight was broken. Until, that is,
I wonder how they're gonna present that on the show, though. The fight between hold on. Let's for some reason now the name is skipping me. So hold on. We're gonna rewind. Lucerys and Aemond. So we're gonna watch that again. Lucerys and Aemond. I wonder how they show that fight in the show if they get that far.
failure, the young princeling mounted himself atop Arrax and began the flight back to Dragonstone. He would never make it. As a storm raged over Shipbreaker Bay, another pair of bronze wings cut through the din. Aemond, riding atop his massive worm Vagar, had descended upon his prey. What followed was more a murder than a fight, for Vagar was a much bigger dragon than Arrax, and Aemond a much more skilled rider than Lucerys. 3 days later, the scaled body of Arrax and his young rider washed up on the beach outside Storm's End. Upon hearing of her son's death, Princess Rhaenyra collapsed into a spiral of grief, and her will to continue the fight was broken. Until, that is, 2 pieces of news arrived from her husband, Prince Daemon. Firstly, the Castellan of Harrenhal, no doubt remembering how Dragonfire had roasted King Harren in that very same castle 130 years earlier, bloodlessly surrendered the keep to the Blacks.
Smart choice. After seeing what happened to the previous owner of Harrenhal, he's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Hey, Daemon, here's the keys to the place. If you need anything, let me know. I'm out of here. Peace, dude. Bye-bye.
After Prince Daemon landed atop its battlements on his hulking dragon Caraxes. This put the most important castle, and by extension most of the Riverlands, under Rhaenyra's control. Secondly, word had also reached Daemon of Lucerys' death, and he promised that he would avenge the boy. To that end, Daemon reached out to 2 old contacts of his in King's Landing, a former sergeant in the City Watch, known by the alias of Blood, and a rat catcher who worked in the Red Keep, known by the alias of Cheese.
Oh,
These
this story. Ay.
2 humble, low-born lowlifes would be the Black Council's instrument of vengeance. As long-time servants of the royal family, both Blood and Cheese knew every nook and cranny of the Red Keep, and thus were able to sneak into the royal bedchambers undetected. One night, as Helaena, sister queen of King Aegon, was tucking her children into bed, the 2 assassins burst into her chambers and barred the door behind her. They put her sons, Maelor and Jaehaerys, under knife point and told her that in order to avenge Lucerys' death, a life was owed, and the queen had to choose which of her 2 sons was to be killed. Pleading for the 2 thugs to kill her instead, to no avail, the queen eventually cried out that Maelor, the younger of her boys, was to be struck down, perhaps because Jaehaerys was King Aegon's eldest son and heir. Upon hearing this command, Blood slit Jaehaerys' throat instead. The 2 assassins
It wasn't right. No, this was not right. Those 2 kids did not deserve that. Neither of them deserved it. Even what happened to Lucaris, okay? All of this could have been avoided.
Then fled, leaving a delirious Queen Helena lying with Maelor, who would live the rest of his life knowing his mother had chosen him to die. An eye for an eye, a son for a son. After the deaths of Lucerys and Jaehaerys, both the Greens and the Blacks had committed egregious acts of kinslaying, and as a result, both Princess Rhaenyra and King Aegon were consumed by grief, rage, and a bitter desire to see the other and all their supporters brutally exterminated. No longer was the Dance of Dragons a petty dynastic dispute which could be resolved with some clever politicking. Now, it was a fight to the death. Knowing that total war was on the horizon, Sir Otto Hightower, Hand of the King, intensified his desperate attempts to secure the oaths of the realm's most powerful lords. But the lords of the North and the Vale were firmly behind Rhaenyra, and the Greyjoys of the Iron Islands and the Martells of Dorne both snubbed the Royal Council's advances. Even in the Reach, where support for King Aegon was supposed to be the strongest, dozens of minor houses had declared for the Black Council, throwing the region into chaos. In the Riverlands, the Rhaenyra-aligned House Blackwood broke the power of Aegon-aligned House Bracken in a
Of the of the minor houses, I do like House Blackwood because they're the only house in the South that still has a weirwood tree and worships the old gods. I found that to be very fascinating about them.
in a pair of actions at the Battle of the Burning Hill and the taking of Stonehenge. With his pool of potential allies on the continent rapidly thinning out, Sir Otto Hightower began enticing the Kingdom of the Three Daughters, a triarchy of the city-states of Myr, Lys and Trioche, over to King Aegon's side, with promises of trade concessions. However, the Neo-Valyrian cities dragged their feet on their response, and growing frustrated with his grandfather's constant diplomatic shortcomings, King Aegon dismissed Sir Otto as Hand of the King, replacing him instead with the younger, more efficient, and more ruthless Sir Criston Cole. Sir Criston's counsel for King Aegon was simple: trying to secure the loyalty of Westeros' lords through diplomacy and the Olive Branch had clearly failed, so it was time to get through to them by way of the Targaryens' house words, fire and blood. Setting forth from King's Landing with dragons, an army, and his new hand at his side, Aegon began doing just that, subjecting the pro-black harbour town of Duskendale to a brutal sack. The royal campaign next proceeded to Rook's Rest, whose ruling house, the Stauntons, had also pledged loyalty to Rhaenyra. When Sir Criston arrived with the king's forces, he found Rook's Rest barred, and since Aegon and his dragon were ostensibly not with him at the time, the ruthless Hand of the King resorted to pillaging his way throughout the hinterlands of Staunton territory. In desperation, Lord Staunton had a raven sent to Dragonstone, beseeching his liege Queen Rhaenyra to send out her dragon riders to save his fief. The queen acquiesced, and sent her aunt Rhaenys riding atop the great drake Meleys.
You see, and that's the thing. She should have joined her as well.
As it turned out, Sir Criston's real goal all along had been to draw out one of the Black Council's dragons. No sooner had Rhaenys and Meleys taken to the field than they were swept down upon by not one but two dragon riders, Prince Aemond atop Vagar and the king himself atop Sunfire. 1,000 feet in the air, the three giant beasts fought viciously, ducking and weaving amidst columns of searing dragon flame. While the Black Queen's aunt and her dragon were slain, King Aegon was severely burnt in the struggle, and Sunfire mortally wounded. The king would essentially be in a coma for the following year, and his dragon's combat utility was crippled. Consequently,
yeah, because Sunfire did survive that fight, but again, crippled. The dragon could no longer fly. First of all, again, I'm really impressed with the illustration and the maps and just how the army movements are shown here on this video. Again, I'll save my criticisms at the end. They're minor, but all in all, loving this so far. It's a lot of fun to enjoy.
Prince Aemond took his place as the functioning head of the Greens. Upon hearing of his wife Rhaenys' death, Lord Corlys Velaryon threatened to abandon Rhaenyra's cause. and had to be mollified by Prince Jacaerys, who made him Hand of the Queen. After settling that matter of state, Prince Jacaerys turned his attention to the Blacks' unmanned dragons. After the deaths of Lucerys and Rhaenys, the Blacks had 9 dragons left, but only 3 had riders. Wanting to attack the capital with as many dragon riders as possible, Jacaerys looked far and wide for bastards of Targaryen lineage, whose illegitimate status had condemned them to life as lowborns, but whose blood may allow them to tame the presently masterless dragons.
Okay, the reason why I'm laughing is because think about it, right? You have, I think, they have about 6 dragons that have no rider. And they're like, okay, well, some of the Targaryen guys kind of went a little out of control. Like, might have had some bastard kids here and there. Let's send out ravens to the realm and say, hey, do you think you're a Targaryen? Well, come on over to Dragonstone Island and see if you can man a dragon. If it's true, you'll be fine. If it's not, well, then you're dinner. Listen to the dragon tamer, Sergei. He'll tell you what you need to do. If you realize the dragon's going to breathe fire, please don't run into the other recipients, as we still need to test if they are Valyrians or part of House Targaryen. Okay? All right. Good luck to you guys. That's orientation. Have fun.
Many glory seekers from across the 7 kingdoms answered Jacaerys' call. Most ended up as a giant lizard's aperitif.
Of course, because they're probably thinking like, yeah, I'm a dragon rider. Ah!
But after many deaths, new riders emerged. The dragon Vermithor was claimed by Hugh Hammer, the son of a blacksmith, Silverwing by a humble man-at-arms named Ulf White, Seasmoke by the 15-year-old Adam of Hull, and Sheepstealer by a girl named Nettles, the daughter of a dockside whore. While Jacaerys was arming peasants with giant sentient napalm machines,
which again, what could possibly go wrong?
Queen Rhaenyra had taken the safety of her remaining children in mind. Given all the brutal kinslaying going on lately, she had her 2 youngest sons, Viserys aged 8 and Aegon the Younger aged 10, on a ship to Pentos, where she hoped they could wait out the rest of the war in safety. This would not play out as she hoped. While crossing the narrow sea, the ship carrying the 2 princes happened upon 90 warships of the combined navies of Lys, Myr and Tyrosh, who, as it turned out, had decided to ally with the Greens after all. Naturally, the Assosi ships attempted to capture the boys. Frantically mounting his young dragon Stormcloud, young Aegon was able to fly back to Dragonstone, although his dragon was mortally wounded by Lycian ballistae in the attempt, and would die soon after.
Ah, God. Again, seeing these beautiful creatures, and again, it's easy to type in the comment section below, like, oh, gee, kid, if you saw a dragon, I think you'd be scared. The answer is yes, I would. But again, like, let's face it, even if it's a fictional creature, we gotta just respect nature for its beauty, at least from a safe distance. Because let's face it, these wild animals in real life will rip you apart. A bear will play with your rib cage. A lion will, knock off your head. And an elephant will stamp on you, right? So don't go ahead and think these animals are your friends. Same thing if there was a flying, fire-breathing dragon, But it just hurts my heart hearing how, again, another majestic beast, dead, never again to fly the skies. How sad.
Viserys, meanwhile, who possessed only a dragon egg, was captured by the Lycian admiral, Sharako Lahar. Immediately spirited back to Essos, he would spend the rest of the war in comfortable captivity. Enraged,
comfortable captivity. All right. Well, I guess he's out of the game for a while, So here's hoping he's at least eating some good food and not being tortured or anything else.
Prince Jacaerys, flanked by his ascendant peasant dragon riders, mounted up and descended upon the Assosi fleet with a fury. They did not have to fly far, for Admiral Sharako had already arrived upon the shores of Dragonstone, where he had subsequently ambushed and done great damage to Lord Corlys Velarion's fleet.
Jeez.
Upon pillars of dragonflame, Jacaerys and his dragon seeds eviscerated the navy of the Three Sisters. But in what was becoming a running theme, their victory would be a costly one. During the battle, Jacaerys flew too low, and his dragon was entrapped by grapnels and scorpion bolts, getting caught in the rigging,
No!
the ship, and drowning. Jacaerys himself would perish amidst a hail of Myrish crossbow bolts. Following what became known as the Battle of the Gullet, Queen Rhaenyra had eliminated King Aegon's principal source of naval power, but had lost her eldest son and heir and yet another dragon in the process.
All right, we're going to stop here. My heart only could take so much of a dragon being killed. So seeing so many of these magnificent beasts die already or get injured or maimed. So, all right, there you go. That's part 2 of this video. Let us know in the comment section below if you want to see more content similar to this. Also, give me your thoughts on House of the Dragon. How far do they get in the show? Like, is it just the beginning parts of the of the Dance of the Dragons? Just let me know, because again, an inquiring mind wants to know. After all, my heart was broken by season 8. Okay, season 8 of Game of Thrones. It broke my heart. It broke my heart. But watching this video, I think I might be falling back in love with Game of Thrones. Maybe. Can't make any promises. When you break my heart, that's it. It's over. But my criticism of the video. I didn't like the fact that they glossed over Maegor's rule and King Jaehaerys' rule. And I get it. Maybe there's only so much content you can do. That's just my criticism. Nothing against the video. I mean, all in all, I would give it a 9 out of 10, right? But if you want to see more content from wizards and warriors, type in the comment section below. If you want to see other history lore videos of, let's say, your favorite fantasy area, or science fiction, or even real history, type in the comment section below. Let us know what you think so that we can react to that video. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Chicago Reacts. Also be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wizards and Warriors, because this is a video where they put a lot of time and effort into it. So help them out. Subscribe to their content, all that good stuff. If you don't got to get it, if you don't get it, go figure it out. And there you go. We'll continue on with this adventure about the rise and fall of the Targaryens. So with that being said, my name is Kit. Take good care of yourselves. And hey, you keep right on winning.